class, today we're going to talk about the second type of transformation called reflections. A reflection is a flip over the line of reflection, which in this case will either be the x-axis or the y-axis. And it creates a mirror image of the original figure. So just as we did algebraic representation with translations, we will also do the same with reflections. And it depends on what axis we're using. So reflections across the x-axis have the algebraic representation of x, negative y. So the x value stays the same, but the y value becomes negative. When we reflect across the y-axis, it's flipped. It becomes negative x, y. So the x value is negative, but the y value stays the same. So let's take a look at how exactly this works. As you can see, our original image is this red triangle, A, B, C. Remember that when we transform images, we use the apostrophe to represent primes. So A prime, B prime, C prime is a reflected image, and then A double prime, B double prime, C double prime is another reflected image. So make sure you're looking at the original and seeing where it's being transformed. So we start from A, B, C, transform to A prime, B prime, C prime. So our red triangle is reflecting into our blue triangle. So as we can see, the only thing in between them is the x-axis. So we know that this is a reflection over the x-axis. So our algebraic representation, if you remember, goes from x, y to x, negative y. So if you look at point A, we start at negative 3, 1. The reflected point is negative 3, negative 1. So again, the x value stayed the same, but our positive 1, which is the y value, became a negative 1. So every single point has the same x value, but a different y value. So B, we have negative 4, 4. The reflected value is negative 4, negative 4. Now let's look at the second reflection, which is ABC to A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. So from the red triangle to the green triangle. It's reflected across the y-axis, which is right here. It goes vertically in between them. So we have a reflection over the y-axis. So from ABC to A double prime, B double prime, C double prime, we have xy to negative xy. So again, as you can see, we start with negative 3, 1 for A. But our A double prime value is 3, 1. So the x value changes from positive to negative, but the y value stays the same. If we look at point C, we have negative 1, 1. C double prime is 1, 1. So the negative 1 becomes a 1, and then the y stays the same. So let's practice graphing these. It says the vertices of a triangle are A, negative 1, 1, B, negative 1, 3, and C, 6, 3. Draw the figure and its reflection across the x-axis. What are the coordinates of the new image? So let's go ahead and draw our triangle first, and you will be given coordinate planes, so make sure that you label each of your axes. So this is negative 1, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Hopefully you can do it a little bit neater than me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so if we have A, negative 1, 1, this is A. We have B, negative 1, 3, B. And then C, 6, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3. Alright, so this is our original figure, this triangle right here. Now it says it's a reflection across the x-axis, which we know becomes x, negative y. So the same x value, but a negative y. So I'm going to switch colors. If you have colored pens, I would recommend doing the same. So x stays the same, but y becomes negative. So for A, we have negative 1, 1. we're going to have negative 1, and then 1 becomes negative. So negative 1, right here is A prime. For B, we have negative 1, 3, so it becomes negative 1, negative 3. B prime. And then for C, we have 6, 3 will become 6, negative 3. So here is our reflected image. I apologize, it looks kind of messy, but as long as you have it correctly in your notes, that's all good. So let's fill in our new points. A prime is negative 1, negative 1. B prime becomes negative 1, negative 3. And C prime becomes 6, negative 3. Notice how all the x values right here are exactly the same as our x values right here. And then all the y values become negative y values. So let's look at reflecting a figure across the y-axis. So the vertices of a quadrilateral are P, negative 2, 5, Q, negative 1, negative 1, R, negative 4, 2, and S, negative 4, 4. Draw the figure and its reflection across the y-axis. So let's start with P. So negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Q, negative 1, negative 1. So Q is right here. P, Q. R, negative 4, 2. And then S, negative 4, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we have kind of a funny looking quadrilateral over here. Let's use a brighter color. Alright, so a reflection across the y-axis. We know that x is the one that's going to change now, and y is going to stay the same. So we can go ahead and fill in the values we know. P is negative 2, 5. So if x becomes negative, then we know that negative, negative 2 becomes positive 2. And the 5 stays the same. So here we have P prime. So we have 2, 5. For Q, we're given negative 1, negative 1. So given a negative, negative 1, we get positive 1, negative 1. So 1, negative 1. This is Q prime. R, negative 4, 2 becomes a positive 4, 2. And then S, negative 4, 4 becomes positive 4, 4. So a reflected image would look something like that. So again, notice all the x values are negative. So if it has a negative sign, it becomes positive. And then all the y values stay the same. So these are the simple reflections that you'll be doing across the x-axis and across the y-axis. So make sure that when you do these, you don't simply translate the images and draw them exactly the same, just moved over. Make sure that you're actually taking every single point and reflecting them across. They should be mirror images of each other. Now you have an example to try. You're going to draw a triangle and then reflect it over the x-axis, show the algebraic representation and the coordinates, and then you're going to reflect it across the y-axis. So try that problem by yourself, and then we'll go over it in Math Workshop.